Normally, we don't need to adjust the resolution of our edTPA videos. Whatever the resolution is of the original video, that's what the resolution will be after we get done processing it in Shotcut. Normally, we should leave the resolution alone. There are, however, two special circumstances where we might need to adjust the resolution. One of them is if we're unable to compress the video to a size less than or equal to 300 megabytes. If we experiment with different quality settings, we might not be able to find a balance between quality and size. Either we wind up with a video that's larger than 300 megabytes that looks good, or a video that's smaller than 300 megabytes that looks terrible. Sometimes adjusting the quality setting isn't enough to bring the size down to something less than or equal to 300 megabytes. Another situation where we might need to adjust the resolution of our videos is when we have choppy playback. This is especially true when we try to play high-resolution videos on older hardware. The hardware sometimes has trouble keeping up. Instead of getting nice smooth playback, we get videos that start and stop and jitter. Let's compare the resolution of my computer screen to the resolution of the video that's currently open in Shotcut. To find my screen resolution, I'll click the Start button and type in the word resolution. After I hit Enter, I see that my screen has a resolution of 1024 pixels wide by 768 pixels tall. Now let's find the resolution of our video. I'll click the Properties button about halfway across the button bar at the top of the Shotcut window. Then, inside the Properties window, I can readily see that our video has a resolution of 4096 pixels wide by 2160 pixels tall. That extends well beyond the boundaries of my screen. It doesn't make much sense to have videos with so high of a resolution that we can't notice the difference, especially when we consider extra pixels mean unnecessarily large file sizes. Here's what the edTPA Recommended Video Formats and Settings document has to say about resolution. To achieve the target file size, in other words 300 megabytes or less for our purposes, be sure to set the proper resolution before you start recording. Commonly used lower resolutions like 320 by 240 and 640 by 480 will yield the best results. Higher resolutions and HD quality will produce file sizes too large to be conveniently uploaded and should be avoided. There appears to be quite a discrepancy between the resolution of the video that's open in Shotcut and the recommended edTPA settings. Although we normally don't have to worry about reducing the resolution of our video quite as low as the edTPA recommendations seem to indicate, it is a good idea to keep an eye on the resolution just in case we have file size or playback problems. I've marked off about 6 seconds and 7 frames of the video that's currently open in Shotcut. Let's export that tiny clip with different resolutions. First, let's generate a clip with the same resolution as the original video file. To do that, I'll click the Export button at the far right of the Shotcut button bar. Notice that the resolution of the video I'll be making matches the resolution of the original video, namely 4096 by 2160. Let's leave that alone and go down to the bottom left of the export window where we can click on the Export File button. I think I'll save my video to the desktop And to help me keep things straight, I'll name it with the value of the resolution I'm using. I'll type 4096 and then an X followed by 2160. And I'll end the name with .mp4. To begin the export process, I'll click the Save button at the bottom. Once the export process has finished, let's close the export window with the aid of the little X at the top right. Then, let's take a look at the video we just made. I'll click the Open File button at the far left of the Shotcut button bar. When I scroll up and down my desktop, I find 4096 by 2160. When I hover my mouse over the file, I see that it has a size of 51.4 megabytes. That's quite large for a video clip that's only a little over 6 seconds long. Let's try to play it. I'll double-click on it. When I'm asked whether I want to save the project file or not, as usual, I'll answer no. What I get. Notice how choppy the playback was. This resolution is far too high for our needs. Let's generate another clip using a lower resolution. To save a little time, I opened up the original video once again and marked off that same 6-second and 7-frame segment. Whenever you're experimenting with different resolution settings, it is essential to always go back to the original video. Don't simply change the resolution of the clip you just made. Always go back to the source. If you don't do that, the quality will get worse and worse with each successive generation. As before, I'll click the Export button. Let's reduce both the width and the height by 50%. What is 50% of 4096? That's 2048. So I'll replace the value. Similarly, what is 50% of 2160? That would be 1080, so I'll type that in. If you can't do that in your head, use the Windows calculator. Then I'll click the Export File button again. This time I'll name my video 2048x1080.mp4. Then I'll click the Save button and wait. After this second export process has finished, let's check the results. When I click on the Open File button and scroll down my desktop, I see the brand new video named 2048 by 1080. It has a file size of 14.3 megabytes. You may remember that our previous video, named 4096 by 2160, had a much larger file size of 51.4 megabytes. The video we just made has a size that is about 1/4 the size of our previous video. That makes sense when you consider that we were using half the number of pixels horizontally and half the number of pixels vertically compared to the previous video. If we have 1/4 the number of pixels, we should expect to see approximately 1/4 the file size. Let's try to play the new video after I double-click on it and dismiss the project prompt.
what I get.
I notice that I have much smoother playback. In this final scenario, I've once again opened the original video and marked off that same 6-second and 7-frame clip. Let's export the video using 1/4 the number of horizontal pixels and 1/4 the number of vertical pixels. After clicking the export button, I'll change 4096 to 25% of its original value, namely 1024. Similarly, I'll change 2160 to 25% of its original value. That would be 540. Then I'll click the Export File button at the bottom left. I'll name the file accordingly, 1024 by 540.mp4, and click the Save button. After the third and final export process has finished, let's check our work. When I return to my desktop and locate the video named 1024 by 540, I see that it has a size of 4.67 megabytes. You might think that the value should be smaller. After all, in the final video, we used 1/4 the number of pixels horizontally and 1/4 the number of pixels vertically that we used in the first video, the one named 4096 by 2160. In other words, since we used 1/16 the number of pixels, we should expect to see a value for the size of 1/16 of 51.4. It didn't work out exactly as expected, but the value is still quite small. Let's try to play the video. After double-clicking on the file and dismissing the project prompt, I not only see that the playback is smooth, but the resolution is still very respectable. Even though we used values that were much smaller than the original resolution, we still wind up with a file that has a resolution that's significantly larger than the minimum edTPA requirements. To summarize, please keep the following points in mind. First, it's usually not a good idea to tamper with the resolution of your video unless you either have difficulty compressing the file size down to something less than or equal to 300 megabytes, or you have a problem with choppy playback. Second, it's possible to incorporate resolution adjustment in with other tasks. Why not combine it with procedures like extraction or compression, or if need be, rotation? Third, when you're experimenting with different percentage values to use, always return to the original video each time you try a different value. Finally, when deciding upon what percentage to use, make sure you apply the same percentage to both the width and the height. If, for example, you decide to take 50% of the horizontal number of pixels, also be sure to take 50% of the vertical number of pixels. If you neglect to do that, you'll wind up with a video that looks either stretched or squished because you've altered the aspect ratio.